in Minnesota is, in fact, that we've got to re-educate the white folks. Got to re-educate the white folks. That's always fun. Man, you can feel good about your kids going to the University of Minnesota. No doubt about that. You have this. Dems move to set limits on Trump's donor-funded White House ballroom, claiming bribery in plain sight. It is a fascinating thing to see the extent of the TDS that is associated with the ballroom. It is one of the more remarkable things, actually, the extent to which your leftists are obsessing over the ballroom that President Trump is constructing. So yes, there's big concern because, Google and Apple and Meta are among corporate donors that have contributed to the ballroom. Well, hold on. Aren't Google, Apple, and Meta all companies that had worked hand in glove with the Biden administration to do all kinds of pretty awful things against Trump and conservatives generally, up to and including deplatforming at times? These people can't help themselves.
Nah, they all tapped in. They all tapped in for the same purpose, heading to that New World Order.
So yes, you have the news that's happened over the past day that you have New York prosecutor Letitia James and James Comey. Good old tall tales James Comey that had their cases thrown out on a technicality because the prosecutor who brought them is said to not have been properly appointed. So those, not only is there going to be an appeal on those cases, but likely to end up having some kind of accountability somewhere along the lines here. But yes, Letitia James taking her victory lap. You also have stories, one of my favorites, Sean Duffy, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. If you are hitting the airport, you're on the move, you're flying for Thanksgiving, no more pajamas. Duffy wants you to stop wearing pajamas on airplanes. He's talking about bringing civility back. It's time to make civility great again. And that means no more PJs on the airplane, among other things. We'll have some fun with that later in the show. But where I wanted to start is with unprecedented peace that first happened in the Middle East. And now what we're seeing with Russia, Ukraine. President Trump is a historic uniter. He's a historic uniter. People are like, oh, but you always had those mean tweets and now the mean truth posts. They're mean bad orangemen. It was so bad for so many people back in 2020. My joke after the fact was that you had people that were so riddled with TDS, it'd be like, oh, mean Trump tweets, give me Joe Biden. And that would be like a guy. You get all high-pitched and was so upset about the mean Trump tweets, so he went for Biden. Then realized, oh, elections have consequences. Let's talk about what's real. As a lot of people get so caught up in the rhetoric while underappreciating the reality. We do have a window of history, a window of time of unprecedented peace that's unfolding before our eyes this year. I mean, what we've witnessed already is unprecedented. What you've been witnessing is history. What we've already seen, something I never thought would happen. I thought for sure there would be zero chance that Hamas would surrender and release the remaining 20 hostages alive with Israel. Never thought that was going to happen. Never thought had a chance of recovering all of them alive. The ones that we knew to be alive at that point. That happened. And it wasn't just when over a month ago you had that Hamas-Israel peace accord. It was how Trump did it and how he continues bringing countries together. That peace accord that was signed last month in Egypt, that ratified that deal. You take a look at everybody who came together in Egypt to be part of that. You had Algeria, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Canada, Egypt, France, Germany, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Jordan, Kuwait, Malaysia, Maldives, Morocco, the Netherlands, Nigeria, Norway, Oman, Pakistan. You have the PLO that was actually there, Palestinian Authority, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Somalia, Spain, Sudan, Sweden, Switzerland, Tunisia, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Think about all of those different countries that came together in the name of peace between Israel and Hamas. Who else in the world would have been able to unite so many varied countries?
Yep, because they all a part of the beast system.
Towards the UN. There's nothing unified about the UN. That place is an absolute disaster. So that day was a truly historic day. And what you've seen since, because you had all the naysayers at the time saying, what? No, there's no way that Israel-Hamas truce was going to hold, right? Well, here we are. What has it been 5-6 weeks at this point? It's held together. It's held together. And now, the final major peace for unprecedented peace appears to be coming together with Russia and Ukraine. And the key to all of this, you talk about peace through strength. When you take a look at how we got to this point, it was all about strength. It was all about overcoming all of the perceptions of weakness, not just from the Biden administration, because Trump always had credibility on foreign policy matters, at least from his first administration. You know, one of the great ironies, I remember this back during the 2016 election cycle, when you would have Hillary Clinton and company warning about Trump having access to nuclear bombs. And I remember thinking, this is like the greatest thing ever from a point of peace. Like, let's say that you actually embraced Hillary and the left's idea that Trump really is the crazy man with the bomb. If you're a bad actor anywhere around the world, and you really do believe that Trump is the crazy man with the bomb, are you more or less likely to act poorly? I mean, what's the most likely outcome of that? No want to.
Will Trump be the one that usher in World War III?
All the way back then, that ran on what? Bombing the blank out of ISIS. Remember, because we had the ISIS caliphate that occurred, and then all the ISIS-inspired attacks here in the United States. And the situation has kept getting worse and worse because of the weakness of Obama back then. It was, Obama calling on the Muslim Brotherhood to rise up, and they did. And all the terror organizations around the world, Islamic terror groups, like, hey. And ISIS ended up becoming strong. They got the caliphate. They did all that. And then what happened? Trump got into office. He bombed the blank out of ISIS. And that was the end of it. You didn't hear anything about ISIS or Islamic terror really again until the Biden administration. And then look at that. The weakness allowed facts to pop back up. And we had to deal with some of those issues again. Well, when you take a look at what set up what we're seeing right now, the peace that's happened with Israel-Hamas, but the peace that we're on potentially the brink of with Russia and Ukraine, and it's a big question mark because, I mean, look, you can trust Putin as far as you can throw him, but in the grand scheme of things, is Putin necessarily worse than Hamas? Probably not. So there's that. But anyway, my lead story.
So they saying Hamas is worse than Putin.
On the situation with Israel and Iran at that point. Write a story, President Trump dropped the MOPs, and the world is on the brink of unprecedented peace. It was at that moment where I thought it was crystal clear that we were going to begin to see unprecedented peace. Because once you have President Trump that dropped the big one, he went full gap band on Iran. It might sound odd to talk about unprecedented peace coming out of dropping MOPs. With wars that have been raging at that point, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Hamas, at that point, Israel and Iran. But when Trump deployed the most destructive non-nuclear bombs on the planet, he set the stage for unprecedented peace. based on the precision of the attack, the limited nature of it, the perceived success, it was clear that the world's leading sponsor of terror, which is Iran, had been neutered.
Hold on, give me a second.
Remember, President Trump ended up calling that Saturday evening presser and said he ended up doing the presidential address and said Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. And then remember the arguments that immediately ensued? Oh, they're not totally obliterated and everything else. That was back in June, right? Do you hear anybody on the left saying that anymore? Remember how the Trump administration for the first week was like, no, all of our intelligence officials, all of our agencies, and our allies are saying totally obliterated. Yeah, but I went to MSNBC, what is now MS Now, and they said they weren't obliterated. All of that's gone, right? So quite clear that Iran was fully neutered by those MOPs. And for decades, U.S. presidents, leaders from around the world had always said that Iran could never have a nuclear weapon. But all along, what happened? Iran played games. They continued to develop nuclear weapons. And in just a matter of minutes, with the dropping of those MOPs, it all ended. All those decades of presidents said, we can't have Iran with a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, but when you look at it, everything ties into prophecy. Russia, being the guard unto the other nations. As NATO and the EU and America, continue to show their horns, a lot of nations, a lot of countries, they're going to go and partner themselves with Russia. All right. And that's what you're going to get. All right. Basically World War III. All right. But the Most High Yahweh mustering the battle now, man. He making all these nations collide together, and and cause division among them, which is a beautiful thing because that's mark our beginning as they end. All right, come and manifest before the earth. So Lord willing, y'all brothers to the edified. Me and the priest Ayash from Mississippi, we're gonna go live around about 6:30. So Lord willing, y'all can tune in to then. The next time, Shalom, Baba, Raka Akim, and the Lord team bless y'all day. There's another installment of radio station edification.